this congregation, I don't know if you use that word, you are love. I have never felt so loved in a place where I've come to speak, and I've been to a lot of them recently in the last 2 years. So know that you are really demonstrating love, and you are going to attract you a wonderful new minister. So I congratulate you on the number of people who are involved here in leadership. I've really seen that the last 2 Sundays. I'm also reminded of a time at Unity in Eau Claire with our Advent wreath, was a large wreath that sat on a little round table, and during meditation caught on fire. And nobody noticed. They're all meditating. It was the smell. And also, you've given me quite a gift. By being here 2 Sundays, I got to spend the last week with my daughter's family, with my son's family, and even made a short jaunt to Missouri to spend some time with my brother and his wife. So that was really a gift, and then a gift from God that I had good weather for all of it. Really thankful for that. Got to see 4 grandkids who were on break from college, and again, thank you, choir. Oh my word, what a gift we had this morning with the singing. Wow. Incredible, incredible. I'm so blessed to be here. Thank you. You know, I was told when I was ordained by a longtime Unity minister, he came up to me like he was going to really share his words of wisdom, right? He says, you only have 3 jobs now. That's to marry him, bury him, and to love him. And sometimes that will be the hardest. But then I also heard in a class from a Unity minister out on the West Coast, this message in a class. She said, every Sunday, every week, as you're preparing for Sunday, you will experience a Sunday talk. There'll be some experience from the week that will tie in. So as I was thinking about our topic today on love, this Advent Sunday of love, I was really paying attention this week as we went through our things together. I met my daughter out at the mall. Probably not the best time to go to the mall. But we met out there, and we were going through the coats section because she had a 30% discount for winter coats. And so I thought, well, maybe I could find a winter coat while I'm here. And she was willing to release her coupon. And I think it's important that as we move through our lives during the week, that we're really paying attention, that we're really watching, we're really observing. Because I think we'll see things throughout the week where we can be the love that we want to express in the world. And I was watching a family. It was I always say it was like an elderly grandmother, and then I keep thinking, I am an elderly grandmother. As we look at ourselves through our own eyes, I don't think we ever see ourselves there. But the elderly grandmother kind of using the cart to support herself. And then what looked like to be the generation after that, a mother and a father. And I saw that they were shopping for a winter coat. And they were going through every rack I was going through. I was just really watching them. And at the time, we went through different areas of the store looking at the different coats. And I see that they had finally selected one and put it in the cart. And I had not. So I asked my daughter, I said, could I give them your coupon? And she said, oh, sure. And so I went over and I handed it to the mother. And I said, could you use this? Do you have this coupon? And she said, oh, no. Really? And she looked at it, it was 30% off. She said, oh my gosh, what a gift you're giving. And she said, we're buying this for my son's girlfriend. And this will be so important to have this discount. And I could just see the love radiating from those 3 people towards us. And that's the small little things we can do during the week to be that essence of unity, That's who we are in the world. So I was looking through my notes, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how the history of Christmas really began with the pagans 4,000 years ago, and how Christianity came along and took most of everything they were doing. but then I figured, I think this group already knows all that. So I want to start with a story that happened in my community. The religion editor for the newspaper several years ago, there was a film showing in town called The Nativity Story. Does anyone remember seeing that? And she asked all the ministers in town to do a viewing. She was going to pick up the cost to go to the theater. And then we'd get together and have a discussion, and then she would use that for her article on the religion page. And so we gathered, we watched the film together, and then we met. The film's a Hollywood effort to tell the story of Christ's birth and the events that led up to the birth. I was first impressed by the fact that there were no blue-eyed blonde actors used in portraying the story. It was really true to the geographical area. The actors were all olive-skinned and brown-eyed, which is much more accurate. And the film did do a great job in giving us a more intimate view of Mary and Joseph. But of course, that coming from the screenwriter's pen. And as there were no stories written approximately 70 years after the event, there were only oral versions of what has been passed down from generations. So again, my first impression of the film was, if we focus only on the Nativity story, viewing it and keeping it in that place of 2,000 years ago, or if we focus only on all the other attributes of the season, gift giving, decorating, food, we might miss the real meaning. The meaning being that the Christ and all that Christ represents, which is love, is born within you, within all of us. That was the gift. And one of the people who joined us in that viewing and in the discussion following was from the Christian radio station, which we were kind of surprised he showed up. It was more the liberal churches who showed up. And our talk really evolved into how might the more faith-based liberal believers come together with the more conservative Christian folks. Last night I attended church with my daughter's family, ELCA Lutheran. And that's the more liberal branch of the Lutherans. But boy, it sure felt Catholic when I walked out. Which is a comment I made to my daughter. So at that gathering, at that discussion, we talked about how might we come together? How might we have discussion? How might we talk? We really tried to understand each other and honor our differences rather than letting those differences keep us at our own war with each other. And the gentleman from the radio station, he said, "How have you been slain, metaphysically, by the right-wing Christians?" I thought that was a good question. And he shared his own fear of being ostracized by his group of Christian conservatives just being at our table and in discussion and sharing with the liberals. So indeed, it was our time to lay down our swords, again, metaphysically. And if we continue to slander anyone's belief systems, whether they be one from our past or one we perhaps don't understand, I think that's something that we can all look at this time of year. As the season of Hanukkah began, I saw this quote from a rabbi. Through my faith, though my faith is not yours, and your faith is not mine, if we are each free to light our own flame, again, the Advent candles, we can banish some of the darkness in the world. You know, Advent comes from the Greek word which means to arrive. We've entered into this time with anticipation, with hope, with faith. And the Advent candles are lit to mark a time of preparation. And with each new light, our anticipation grows. You know, Advent is so much more than just waiting. Advent with Christmas is an invitation for spiritual growth, to experience life at a deeper level, to really pay attention. Now, the meaning of this invitation depends on the meaning of Christmas for each one of us. It's a culmination of a time of gestation and giving birth to that which will be new in our lives, that which is of God. Advent is Christian language for the process of nurturing and birthing, a change of heart, a personal commitment of our lives to a power greater than ourselves. We could say a personal commitment to living by the highest values that we know. It's in unity that we believe that the Christmas story is our story, and that each aspect, each character in the Christmas story represents a part of us. So this Christmas, let's ask, how are we like the shepherds or the wise men or women, or maybe even the innkeeper? How are we like Mary, a young girl who was asked to do unimaginable things? Her role required faith and courage and surrender. How can each one of us use those same qualities in our own lives when we're guided to do something that's maybe seemingly impossible? Now, Christmas stands as a symbol for that to which we would commit. But so much more than a symbol. Christmas also embodies the Advent invitation. It even triggers it. For it's in our lifetime of Christmas experiences, from childhood to adult understanding, that somehow works within our hearts, softening them, opening them at this time of year to a renewed trust in human venture, a sort of unconscious inward transformation, much like Scrooge's. It's at this level that all those outward trappings of Christmas become one with the inward call of the heart, as we remember the magic of childhood Christmases. You know, so much of Christmas is in our stories. If we let ourselves dwell in them and for a time suspend our critical thinking, they can guide us. Angels. We can be angels, heavenly hosts. That's all of us guided by that star of love, the Christ child. The longings of our hearts to be reborn. Christmas calls to us, and Advent becomes our season of response. Now, this morning, then, let us enter into the metaphor of birthing, a fruitful spiritual image for all of us. And if we can stay with it, each of us, like Mary, chosen and embraced by God to be pregnant with divine ideas, and called by God to offer our bodies and our prayers that other people might live abundantly. If we let ourselves think of this in this way, then we can understand the prayer added for each of us engaged in this birthing business. Advent invites us to be an attitude of serious reflection on what is it we are birthing. Advent invites us to slow down, to think about where we're going and why. Advent invites us to imagine giving ourselves time. If we let ourselves ask these questions, the answers will come. And those answers come at unexpected times and places. but they will come. And our Advent task is to nurture them, to make room in our lives for change. Now, the call is always the same: to grow in self-awareness, to grow in our vision of a better world, to grow in the art of love. But in each of us, the new life will take a form unique to whom and where we are. So our challenge is to listen to that distant call, that call of Christmas, and to sound an answering yes as we open our hearts to the holy and let it grow within us. Like Advent, every stage of our lives involves some new form of waiting. When our children are tiny, we wait years for a good night's sleep. When they're toddlers, we wait eagerly when they no longer wear diapers. When they're teenagers, we often wait anxiously to hear the front door close, know they're safely home. So if we welcome waiting as a spiritual discipline, waiting will present its spiritual gifts. If we're conscious enough and courageous enough to name them and live into them. At Christmas, our hearts respond once more to that distant angel trumpets. New trust begins to stir, and faith in life's goodness begins to grow. Until at last it breaks through the clouds of fear and bonds of habit, and Christmas hope is born anew in each of us. So on this third Sunday in Advent, as we focus on love, may that love represented in the gift of Christmas, the Christ child, be that wish to embody and birth within each of us. The metaphysical version of the story of Christmas was written to inspire, to heal, to serve, and to celebrate the Spirit in all of us. It endorses the belief that every human being is divine expression of God, that all sacred paths are valuable, and that no matter what our history may be, it need not determine our future. Metaphysically, what we celebrate each Christmas is the birth of Christ awareness. What Jesus brought to us was a spark of new light, new possibility, light that shines through the darkness of human confusion and illuminates the spiritual truth of who we are. There was a young woman who wanted love and peace in her heart and all sorts of good things, but she was very frustrated. She would read the newspaper, watch TV, get depressed because the world seemed to be falling apart. Everywhere there seemed to be hunger, homelessness, domestic violence, prejudice, politics, and war. So one day, deciding to complete her Christmas shopping, she went to the mall, and she walked into the first store, and she was surprised to find Jesus behind the counter. She knew it was Jesus because he looked like the image she had seen on cards and pictures. And she looked at him again and again, and finally she had the nerve to ask, "Excuse me, are you Jesus?" And he replied, "Yes, I am." "Do you work here?" she asked. Jesus said, "I own the store." And the woman asked, "Well, just what exactly do you sell here?" "Oh," he said, "just about anything." "Anything?" The woman was incredulous. "Yes," he continued, "anything you want. What is it you want?" The woman paused and thought a moment, and she said, "I'm confused and frustrated, and I just don't know what it is I want." Well, then Jesus says, "Why don't you walk up and down the aisle and make a list? Then bring it to me, and we'll see what we can do for you." So the woman did just that. She walked up and down the aisles. On the shelves were peace on earth, freedom from hunger and poverty, peace in families, no more drug abuse, clean air, careful stewardship of natural resources. She scribbled furiously, and by the time she got back to Jesus, she had a long list. Jesus took her list, he looked it over, and he looked at her, and he smiled. He reached down under the counter, and he picked out all sorts of things and then laid them on the counter for her. She was surprised. "What are these?" she asked, pointing to the small packets that he had spread out before her. Jesus replied, "These are seeds." "What do you mean?" she asked. "I don't get the finished product." "No," Jesus said, "this is a catalog store. A place where you come in and see what it looks like, and I give you the seeds. You must plant the seeds. You must make them grow. It might take a lifetime or more. You may not even see the results, but only with commitment will your dreams be realized." So we don't know what the woman took out of the store. The heart of Christmas isn't the finished product, the realized dreams waiting on the shelves for us to take down and purchase. The heart of Christmas is those seeds. It's the promise not yet fulfilled. It's the hunger not yet satisfied. Christmas isn't the story of an ending. It's the story of a birth, a beginning. The promise of what could happen if human beings understood themselves to be living, breathing, universal spirits of life and love. It's a story of faith, peace, love, and joy, reborn every year with the returning of the light. The heart of Christmas lives in all of us, and it waits to be born in you. So as we go into meditation, when we sit for a little bit in the silence, at the end we're going to again sing out of meditation with "Love Came Down at Christmas," page 283, if you want to prepare yourselves for that. But I would invite you now, as we begin this time of meditation, just to put your feet on the floor, maybe your palms up on your lap. As we join together, heart to heart, soul to soul. As we hold within our hearts the promise of love, may we know strength in every cell, tissue, and organ within. As we hold within our hearts the promise of love, may we know power of accomplishment, of greatness, for we truly are. As we hold within our hearts the promise of love, may we know imagination, divine ideas. As we hold in our hearts the promise of love, may we know discernment, the ability to evaluate and make good choices. As we hold in our hearts the promise of love, may we know understanding, a knowing that blesses us. As we hold in our hearts the promise of love, may we know zeal, true joy, and a zest for living. As we hold in our hearts the promise of love, may we know release, the ability to surrender, to let go anything that no longer serves our highest good. As we hold in our hearts the promise of love, may we know faith, believing beyond all doubt. As we hold in our hearts the promise of love, may we know order, the divinity within all things and all experiences. As we hold in our hearts the promise of love, may we know wisdom, knowing how wise we really are. as we hold in our hearts the promise of love. May we know life in its true meaning. And as we sit together in a moment of silence, may we connect with that energy and that blessing of who we are in this community and in this world, together in the silence.